Joey, what distinguishes a high-performing sales organization from an average one?
Yeah, Brad, great question. And you can probably point to a lot of different things. But what I have seen, it's really a crescendo of one thing. It is, do we know where we are going? Do we know how we're getting there? So think your strategy. And do we know why we are going in that direction? So the where, the why, and the how, I would say that's the biggest difference between a really high-performing sales organization and a underperforming.
What dictates where we're going? Is that from senior level leadership? Is that from the sales manager? Is that from the individual sales rep? Who dictates that direction?
Yeah, I think when it comes to vision and the 10,000 foot view of the company, so obviously depending on the size of your organization, it could come from every level. But I think it really does start from the top. And really, like, if you're working for a smaller organization, the more responsibility the individual contributor has. But I would say, short answer to your question, it starts at the top.
Okay. And can that all be taught then? So as you look at starting at the top, pushing it down, what sort of funnel should we create in terms of creating that high performing sales culture? What sort of system should we have in place?
Yeah, great question. So it's really on the burden of the individuals. Let's say it's a sales manager, right? So you don't just want to repeat and regurgitate what your boss told you. You really want to own the message to make sure that your team isn't like, okay, well, this person is just a puppet for what senior executive leadership said. So I think everyone at their own level needs to own their message and make it their own to then like really set the vision for their own group to make sure that everyone knows where they're going.
Let me ask you this. You work with a lot of staffing and recruiting firms, I know, at Butler Street. What is the staffing industry getting wrong as it relates to sales in 2025?
That's a great question. And so you have to just think about the landscape of staffing in 2025. So we're coming off of a bad year for the industry. I think the industry is projected to be 10 or 15% down. So coming into 2025, what some people are getting wrong is, hey, the market's back up in 2025. So we're just going to do the same thing that we did, and we're going to let the market dictate our success. So we see a lot of people not playing offense. They're like, okay, well, I want to see how the year starts. Like, let's wait until Q2. Let's do something in the second half of the year. So the biggest mistake we see is people actually not taking action and changing, whether it be their strategy, their effort, their service offering, just because they think the market's going to be the thing that swings them up this year.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of the quote. It goes something like, what got you here won't necessarily get you there. And I feel like our industry as a whole, whether it's for the last decade or 20 years or even startups, they know what got them to a certain point. And then they sort of just stop. They say, okay, well, this got us 5 or 6 orders in the past. Let's continue doing this because we need 5 or 6 more. But we don't realize that we're playing at a completely different game. 2025 isn't 2024. It's certainly not what it was like pre-COVID. So we need to play from a different game. We need to play a different system because sales is completely different when we think about where we're at right now.
Right. And you can point to COVID being that big shift because everyone started working remote. People, like our customers, got rid of their office phones. So even trying to set a meeting with someone, it's a different game. How we use our cell phones, how we communicate with technology, all of that is really different, and that requires a different skill set. And I love what didn't get me here is what got me here isn't going to get me there, because it's so true. It's like the tricks of 2018 and 2019 will not work in 2025. And that goes with the scale of companies as well. So there's a reason why only 250 staffing firms are above $100 million for revenue, because people stall out between 25 and 75 because what got you to 25 won't get you to 100.
Say that number again?
Yeah. So only 249 staffing firms are above $100 million in revenue.
Really?
And there's 27,000 staffing firms in the US. So what do those companies do to get over 100 million when other companies stall between that 25 and 75 million mark?
It's super interesting. I didn't know that number, and I appreciate you sharing that number.
Sure. Yeah.
So what are those companies at the top doing differently than the companies near the bottom, those small to mid-sized staffing firms? What are the Goliaths in the room doing that sets them apart, that gets them to 100 million?
Yeah. A lot of it comes down to, okay, what's our actual growth strategy? So Some customers, they're focused on, all right, we need account expansion. We have some really big accounts. We need really, really good account management strategy to gain market share. Other companies are like, okay, listen, hey, we don't have those big accounts with the total addressable market to sustain us at $100 million in revenue. So we need to go acquire those new logos. So depending on where you are in your business growth cycle, that should dictate what your strategy is to get to over 100 million.
Hey, it's Brad taking a short break to tell you about an offer exclusive to listeners of Take the Stage. 30 minutes of strategic marketing consultation with me, completely free. Hey, whether you're looking to drive more sales or more job applications, I want to help. Visit bit.ly/stage offer. Pick a time that works best for you. That's it. Again, whether you want to drive more applications or more job orders, I want to help. That's bit.ly/stage offer. All right, let's get back to the show. How do you propose staffing firms get more market share with the current customers they're already working with?
Cool. Great question. So it all starts, and this is actually a big gap that we see with some of our customers. It's understanding what your total, what we call it total addressable market. What is your total opportunity at that account? Are you in with an account like we're just going to use hypotheticals in Chicago, like United Airlines, right? Like they're an Allegiance account. They have thousands of contractors or consultants, and that is an account where you can really grow and expand. But the first part of that battle is knowing what your opportunity is. So if you understand what your opportunity is, then you can position yourself to go then get more market shares through a strategic sales process. But step one is understanding what your opportunity is. And a lot of people just don't know what that is.
How do you find the opportunity?
It's a variety of ways, right? It's easy as that. Hey, like we need to be asking the questions when we're in a room with high level folks, whether it be at the executive level, director level. It's asking the straight question of like, hey, what's your current spend with consultants? How much of that spend do we actually have? That could be through an MSP. That could be through the procurement. That could be through their HR. So it could be from a variety of different people at an organization. But as the sales rep, it's a matter of, hey, am I asking this question on every single meeting and trying to find out that answer?
Yeah, I had a great call with Rochelle Carrington. She was the last episode that we dropped a little while ago. And we had said on that show that you should plan your sales call like a set list. So every band has the 7 to 10 songs that they know, whether they're in Buffalo or Detroit or Chicago, whatever it is, they're going to play those 7 to 10. Then because they're in Buffalo, they know they're going to sprinkle in these 2 to 3. They know because they're in Detroit, they're going to encore with these 2 to 3. That's your sales call, right? You have these 7 to 10 questions, songs that you know you are going to ask every single time you call a prospect or every single time that you call a current customer. Then, based on how the call goes, well, you deviate from that, certainly, right? You can add songs in, you can encore. If something goes wrong, you can pull out of it and play a different song or have a different question for the conversation. But I think where the staffing industry struggles is stereotypically, we just have a sales call. We don't have that plan. We don't have that vision. We don't know, okay, what's going to get me from A to B, B to C. We sort of just pick up the phone and hope for the best.
Right. Yeah, that's a great analogy. And the thing, what I've seen about the staffing industry and why I kind of got roped into it 13 years ago, it is filled with A-type, very outgoing, fun individuals where I relied a lot on my emotional intelligence when I first started. I don't think I really had a meeting plan going into meetings. And I was like, oh, these people will just tell me information without me asking because they like me. It wasn't until I started thinking about like, oh, I need to strategically plan and ask these questions because it's going to move my business forward, did I start actually figuring things out.
Well, you got to know the outcome that you're looking for, right? And I think with a sales call, and I actually learned this from Rochelle as well, and this is probably common knowledge in the sales space, but you're not going to have that one call close. So what does yes look like on the end of this call? If I'm calling you for the first time, what is yes in my mind going to be? And how do I guide you down that path, right? I'm not going to send you a contract today. It's our first call. You don't know me. This is a brand new conversation, but what does yes look like? And if I have that plan, then I can steer the conversation again using that set list to get you closer to a yes on that path.
Right. Rochelle sounded like a great interview.
It was a good conversation. Yeah, it was a really good conversation. If you haven't listened to the episode, I'll use this chance to plug that show. It's Rochelle Carrington on Take the Stage. We talked about specifically how to stop chasing prospects. Really good conversation with her, and I hope you check it out.
Yeah,
Joey, let me ask
100%.
you this. When you think about AI in the sales process, AI is probably the biggest, let's call it buzzword that we can think of right now. How
Right.
involved should artificial intelligence be in the sales process for staffing firms?
Yeah, great question. And really, I mean, it's a straightforward answer, and it should be involved in every part of the sales cycle. And it's up to the individual salesperson to know when and how to use it. So we were saying at Butler Street, it's AI plus EQ plus habit equals sales success. I think when we hear AI, everyone just thinks, okay, like it's going to be a bot and it's not going to be personal and it's not me, so I'm not going to use it. But that's just like the very small window of, hey, using AI to write an email for you. So when we think about what all goes into a sales meeting, or one that, to your point, has a plan, has a goal, has a defined what yes is, you can use AI when you research your customer and your prospect. It's going to do a lot better job searching the web for deep information than you are. We do it at Butler Street, and the little things that you find in the cracks and crevices of the internet on people is incredible. And that's one more thing that you can use to make a connection with that person. All right. Then you can use AI. If I've never gone on a meeting with a CIO before, I can enter in there that information, understand what a CIO looks for. Then I can tailor my language so that CIO, that I'm speaking the same language as the CIO. Because then they'll be like, okay, this person understands what I'm looking for. Then there are all the other tools. I mean, Zoom, there's an AI companion that will transcribe your meeting notes for you. And something that I've started doing, because we use AI at Butler Street, is I've completely stopped taking notes in meetings. And I've just let my Zoom companion do it, because then I'm 100% focused, because I'm not like, oh, what did he say? And like looking down and writing, and allow that to happen. Then it'll do your follow-ups for you. They can role practice with you. And I mean, if you haven't infused AI and you're a salesperson in your day-to-day, studies show for us that you save 2 hours a day. There was a HubSpot survey that came out that said salespeople save 2 hours a day if they use AI. And so time is money in today's generation, in today's sales landscape. So to answer your question, it should be used at all aspects of the sales process.
Yeah, I want to ask you a couple more questions about AI, but I could not agree more in terms of using Zoom Companion. We were using Read AI for a little bit. Okay. And then personally, I think some people on Team Haley are still using Read AI. I stopped because Zoom Companion worked totally fine for me. And I am somebody who will find more tools than I necessarily need for the job. So I've been strategically trying to cut things out of my life and say, listen, I don't need Read AI and Zoom Companion and this and this. I just need one tool to get me there. But I could not agree more. The more present I can be on a call, the better that the conversation is going to be. The more I'll get out of you, the more you'll get from me. And if I don't have to take notes, that's fantastic. So what I do, my workflow, Zoom Companion has to be on for every single call. If I'm not hosting it, it's mandatory for me to join the call. I need that to be on. And then 2, I take all of that transcript and I built out a GPT for myself to build out what I call a consulting brief that then pulls that transcript into 8 to 9 different buckets of, here's the client, here were the key points we talked about, here's the challenge that they're facing, here's what you suggested as a solution, Brad, and then here's some of the marketing strategies that you also pitched on this conversation, so that immediately after the call, Joey, my follow-up is done. I can get that to the client or the prospect and I can move on with my day, because the last thing that I want to be is a bottleneck in 1, the sales process, or 2, the consulting process. If you have to wait for me to type up my notes, maybe by chance I have 7 or 8 calls that day, and now we're not getting to this follow-up until tomorrow or the day after, the likelihood that I remember what that call was about is so difficult. So yeah, that's my workflow 100%.
Yeah, to double click on the Zoom Companion, I mean, you think about the buying experience, because in staffing, in such the competitive landscape, you have to think about what the buying experience is for the customer. So, okay, like if I can lay out next steps, bullet points, quick summary, hey, this is what we talked about, this is what we agreed upon, and you can push that out in 5 to 10 minutes after the meeting. And it's great. I mean, salespeople, and I can see this because I'm a salesperson, we hate administrative work. Like if there's something that I can do that's not administrative work, I'm going to do it. And so removing roadblocks for this admin work is incredible. So yeah, I can't imagine doing meetings without Zoom Companion.
I think there's a fear among the industry that AI has the opportunity to replace recruiters. I just saw an AI tool over the weekend. Actually, I am going to look it up. Give me a second just to pull this up on my phone. And if you're listening on the podcast, this will certainly look a lot better than if you're watching the video. But I shared this with the team the other day in our AI experience chat. There's a new tool called Lucy. And I'll actually just read you the tweet that I shared. We're excited to introduce Lucy, the first AI agent that does your hiring for you. Give her a job description. She'll search 210 million profiles to find the perfect candidate, DM them, and set up an interview. That's wild. And if you think about the fact that could AI replace the staffing and recruiting industry, in some areas, yes, it might. But in some areas, it's also going to free up really good sales reps and really good recruiters to be exponentially better at their jobs. And that's where I think AI is headed. Yes, it could at the bare minimum alleviate sourcing. It should help you with your prospecting. It should help you with those small, mundane E level tasks that you don't want to do in the first place, right? At the end of the day, sales reps just want to talk to people. You don't want to prospect. You don't want to do the admin work. You just said it yourself, Joey. So if you can cut out all of those steps and just have more conversations like this, great. Sign me up any day of the week.
For sure. The recruiting is going to be interesting. Because obviously, so all of the big ATSs, so your Aviantes, your Bullhorns, your TempWorks, they've all infused AI into like resume finding, right? So that's already been happening. Now we have this really big thing with the Converse AIs of the world, the Lucys, that are like, all right, now we can have bots or agents actually outreach to people. I think when I first heard it, I said, you know what? Like, no way. I wouldn't leave a job if an AI like called me. But I mean, when you think about the last 10 years, I never would have bought a car online. You could now buy a Tesla with Apple Pay. I never would have bought a house online. Now I search Zillow every day after 5 o'clock because my fiance and I are looking for a house.
Joey, when was the last time you went to a mall?
Oh, okay. This is only a cheat code because my family and I do Christmas photos every year.
Good for you.
I went and saw Santa. We do a gift for my mom every Christmas. But outside of that, you're right. I haven't been to a mall forever. So I think the more and more we get used to interacting with agents or non-humans, I think for certain roles in certain industries, it will replace recruiters. I think that, but I think your high level, hey, I'm about to leave a 6-figure job to go to a 6-figure job. I think that something about the human connection would ease that process. So to your point, I think it could take away a lot of the legwork that will allow recruiters just to solely focus on the interaction human to human.
That type of role in my mind requires a career coach or an agent. Just like if you were shopping a star quarterback or a star wide receiver, you would want the best agent for your best interests in mind to get you the best possible position, the highest salary, benefits, all of that, right? When you get to that level of employment, I think, yes, you want a career agent. And I think everybody wants a career coach or a career agent. Right. It's actually a concept that I stole, borrowed from the Staffing Shark. He was on the show a long time ago.
Cool.
He said it a few times that he considers himself a career coach and a career agent, right? He's not just putting people to work and opportunities. He's working with them from role to role to role to progress through their career journey. And I love that about him. And I love the whole thought. But yes, 6-figure roles beyond whatever it might be, even under that, you want a career coach in your corner. So yes, AI can help the recruiter, the sales rep, get to having more meaningful conversations. And at the end of the day, I think that's what we're all looking for.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. A salesperson, if you have an agent cold calling for you that is very competent at setting meetings, and you don't need to make 100 dials to set 3 meetings. I mean, who wouldn't want that?
Right. And that's kind of where I went with AI for a while and to kind of go on a small tangent, but with content, right? I want full control over the output of my content. Should I use AI? We have a team of 80 here at Haley. So I have a lot to do on a given day. I can't cut audio, cut video, write blog articles, write infographics, do all of this. We have a team that can assist in the post-production of that show. Great. But now what if I had an AI agent who was also helping me? Is that cheating? Or is that using tools effectively? And I sort of had this existential crisis with myself a while ago. And now I'm all for it. I think the more that we can use AI to better what we're already doing, I'm all for. And I know Team Haley, we've taken a strong stance into being AI focused and AI first and making sure that we're doing everything we can to yield the highest possible output for the content we're creating. And whether that's through AI or a writer or a videographer, whatever it might be, we're finding the best tool for the desired outcome and output that we're looking for.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about AI is today, so like January 27, 2025, is the worst it's ever going to be. And so it's going to be a little bit better tomorrow and a little bit better tomorrow. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the news this morning, but even the DeepSeek from China that got released.
I'm not fully briefed though, but I have.
Yeah, it's basically another AI model that they did it faster and cheaper than ChatGPT and Gemini, and people are saying it's just as good. So who knows what could happen.
Joey, I want to step aside from sales for a second and ask you about your personal life. So I know you've done a marathon. Yeah. I think you've done a half Ironman, you said. What sort of mindset goes into those types of events and activities and training that helps you in the sales process?
Great question. So did my first half Ironman at the end of 2023, my first marathon last year. And so my background in history, I swam my entire life. Very competitive swimmer. Like my claim to fame is I was actually in the same heat as Michael Phelps one time when I was 16. Really? He won. So I'll give it to him. And,
that's a fantastic two truths and a lie, though. If you're ever at a Christmas party or a holiday party and someone says you have to do a two truths and a lie, saying that you were in the same heat as Michael Phelps, no one's going to believe that.
Yeah. Especially like looking at me now. And so I think whenever like we're about the same age and you kind of hit your mid 30s and you're like, man, like losing a step. And so my brother and I both live in Chicago. And 2 years ago, I was like, hey, let's do the Chicago Triathlon for fun. And when we finished, I was like, you know what? Like, I think I could have kept going. And so him and I made a pact. We're like, all right, in 6 months from now, we're just going to do an Ironman. And we got to train together. We did everything. We were living together at the moment due to some life changes. And so we became a really good bond for my brother and I, and that's kind of how it started. And then all of a sudden it kind of morphed into this thing of, all right, well, how far can I push myself? And I think when you think about an endurance athlete swimming, I was in the water 20 to 25 hours a week growing up. And the thing I loved about swimming was, all right, if I practice more, I will be faster than everyone else. Yeah, there are some physical things. I have long arms. That's helpful. But at the end of the day, it's like, all right, this output gets this input gets this output. So I liked that. Like, all right, the harder I work, the faster I'll be. When you convert that into sales, that's why I think sales was such a good transition for me, was because if I go on more meetings than my peers or my competitors, if I make more cold calls, if I try to get 1% better every day and just focus on the mental aspect of sales, then I'll just be better. And it's not like there's any major trick. There's no like silver bullet in sales, especially in staffing. It's like right place, right time. Am I like just like getting after it every single day? And I really do think that luck just comes at the intersection of hard work and opportunity, and you can make your own luck. And you make your own luck by working really hard. So that's how that kind of transitions from endurance athlete to sales.
Yeah. There's probably 4 or 5 things that I'd like to touch on there if I can remember them all. First off, getting 1% better every day. I don't know if you've read the book, The Slight Edge, but that book fundamentally changed my life. And getting 1% better every day, it sort of became my mantra after reading that book. So we're speaking the same language there. 2, I think it's also interesting in the sales process that in the same as endurance training, the work you put in today fuels your success 60 to 90 days from now, right? That zone 2 training that you're going to go out and do this afternoon makes it so that it's easier to put in long miles 30 days, 60 days from now. It's that grueling sort of half speed run that helps you as you go forward. I know we talked before the show, but I'm training for my first marathon now. Yeah. And I'm learning that as much as it is about training, it's also about time off. It's about recovery. It's about eating. It's about diet. It's about sleep, which I have a almost 3-year-old and a 4-month-old. So sleep is, that's the one part of my routine and my workout program that I just have zero control over at this point. But it's interesting to me that
congrats on the newborn.
Thank you. I appreciate it, my friend. It's just interesting the work you put in now. I know in my own sales cycle, and maybe this is slow, but I believe my sales cycle at Haley Marketing is about 60 days, 45 to 60 days. That's what I see For some, it's different, right? But that's just what I see. So it's the work that I'm putting in now in January that will yield the closes in March. So I know that I need to run the miles, make the calls today to have a successful March. It's super, super interesting.
Yeah, it's putting yourself in the mindset of prioritizing your future self and not your current self. And so, like to your point, it's like, all right, skipping a workout is going to really help you right now because it'll feel good. You'll sleep in. I was at Barry's at 5 a.m. this morning. Woke up at 4:30.
Oh, I missed the 5 a.m. club, man. I love the 5 a.m. club.
Yeah. And I was like, man, like, I would love to sleep in, but like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about myself, like whether it's later today. I know I always feel better when I work out, and really thinking about, okay, am I prioritizing my current self or my future self? And when I started getting into that aspect, and it's the long runs of marathon training, right? It's I need to run 18 miles today. Well, I really don't want to, but I know on marathon day, I'm going to be happy that I did. And whenever you think of an endurance race like an Ironman or a marathon, the actual race is the curtain call. You know, the event is the training for it and getting up and running when you don't want to and all of those things leading up to it. And that's just the event's a byproduct of your hard work, just like sales. I mean, the sale is a byproduct of all of your activities.
I think it was a Nike ad, and maybe friends, if you're watching the video, we can find a way to pull in the clip here. At this point, I'll talk to Christoph afterwards and Dustin afterwards, but I think it was a Nike ad for possibly Boston or maybe Chicago, but it basically said, what's 26.2 more, right? If you think about all of the work that goes into marathon prep, I know right now I'm in the heart of it. I'm running maybe 30 plus a week. That's going to drastically scale up. I'm just about to start a 16-week prep that'll get me right to the doorstep of the Buffalo Marathon. So that will ramp up. But I think when you think about it that way, it's like, what's 26 more? I've already put down, last year I started training in May. I put down just over 450 miles. I mean, what is 26 more, right? And yes, 26 is not easy to do. Otherwise, everyone would do it. I think it's something like 0.5% of people have completed one.
Yes, something like that.
It's 26 more, right?
Right. And I mean, it's there's another Nike ad, and it's like, what gets done in the dark will bring you to the spotlight, or something to that degree. I think there's a really good Joe Frazier quote about it. But yeah, it's the mental. I mean, you're like in winter in Buffalo right now, so like, are you running outside or are you on a treadmill? Either one sounds very difficult.
Yeah, I'm running everything outside. I will say, I'm taking 2 weeks off. So I took last week off. My wife and I, the family, we got a little bit of a cold at the early part of the week. Plus, it was below zero pretty much all week. So I decided to take that week off. I'm also traveling at time of recording quite a bit this week for Haley. So I'm taking this week off, which works really, really well because that'll start February into a 16-week prep for the marathon. Also, my shins have been kind of acting up. So on just a mental, physical, cold weather recovery, it made sense to take just a little time to breathe. But also, it is very different when you're running and it's 7 degrees out compared to midsummer when it's like 70. It's just a different kind of animal. I'm hoping, strangely, and again, this is my first one, so I don't know. I'm hoping that the cold miles make the warm miles easier. But I kind of think any miles make the future miles easier. So we're going to find out.
So what encouraged you to strap up and do a full 26.2?
Great question. So I fundamentally believe in this sort of rule of threes, that if I hear something 3 times, it's sort of the greater powers that be speaking to me. So my wife a long time ago said that I should try to run a marathon before I turn 40. I'm now 34. So she, a while ago, was like, she knew I was in the gym. I was active. I'm a pretty active person. I have been since the COVID shutdown. It's kind of my time to say, listen, just let's dial this in. So I'm at the gym now probably 5 days a week. That's changing because of running. But she said, Brad, you should run a marathon before you're 40. Shortly after that, I flew out to California and spoke at the California Staffing Professionals annual conference. And Will Matthews, who has been on this show, is a competitive Ironman. He is a marathoner. He's on stage talking about marathons. I fly back to Buffalo. That same night, one of my best friends messages me and says, hey, I'm thinking about doing a marathon. So now I've heard this 3 times in the matter of about a week. Something in my world is speaking to me. Again, that night, Rachel randomly mentioned it to me and she's like, you should run a marathon. I promise you, Joey, I signed up that day. I said, all right,
I
why
bet.
wait till 40? Let's do it. So I signed up in,
Yeah.
I believe it was April of last year. And now we're in the thick of it, man. And it's been a lot of fun. It's an interesting battle that in terms of redefining who you are and redefining what's possible and redefining what you care about. I mean, I'm completely different than I was 7-8 months ago, which is super interesting, but I like who I'm becoming.
Yeah. I never thought I would be a runner. I mean, I grew up swimming. I gave myself this false narrative in my head that I wasn't a runner. And so that was my excuse not to run. And this actually kind of aligns back into the sales thing. And so that was the convenient truth I told myself. And then when I finally was like, my brother, who actually is a runner, he ran the marathon in like 3:15 and he's going to go for Boston. He's running Chicago this year.
Love that.
He was like, dude, you can do it. Just stop telling yourself that you're not a runner. That's half the battle. So I was like, all right. And so like, it's the salesperson of like, all right, well, the industry's down, or this company isn't hiring, or no one's answering their phone, or whatever it is. If you're failing, there's always a story that you're telling yourself as to why you're not achieving your goal. And when going back to my running, I was like, I'm just going to stop telling myself that I'm not a runner, because I am. And once you give yourself that identity change, then it makes it a lot easier. But when's the marathon?
Memorial Day weekend. So it's May 26th.
Yeah, dude, you'll nail it. If you're already doing what you're doing now, and I decided I was going to run this in June, I ran it in October. And so I did not give myself a ton of
Yeah,
time.
good for you.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. It's going to feel really good. I did a half last October just to kind of get a pulse on where I'm at. I'll tell you, my knee blew up the next day. My leg completely locked up. I started doing PT the week after, and I'm still in PT just to get some things dialed in. And it's actually proactive PT, we're calling it.
Cool.
The girl that I'm working with and the coach that I'm working with, it's just all about strengthening and conditioning to get ahead of what could cause pain, which I love.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's been a heck of a journey. It's been a lot of fun. Joey, before I let you go here, first off, I really appreciate your time. But before I let you go, I want to give you the opportunity to tell everyone a little bit about yourself and tell everyone a little bit about Butler Street.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, everyone, if you're listening, my name is Joey Frampus. I've been with Butler Street. I'm coming up on a year actually. So I've only been at Butler Street for a year. I've been in staffing for 13 years. I think like a lot of people, I stumbled my way into it when I graduated college in 2011. So I spent 10 years with one of the bigger staffing firms in the US, lived in 5 different cities, did every job under the sun, managed big teams, big cities, small cities, ran our domestic expansion for 2 years, went and worked for a startup, and then found my way to Butler Street because I actually hired one of our managing partners' children at my startup. And that's how I got to know Butler Street. And so Butler Street, we are a growth and consulting partner that specializes in professional development for the staffing industry. So we will put together learning programs for staffing firms to help their people and their company grow. Something that we are really excited about, speaking about AI, we've started developing our own AI models that we are licensing out to customers so that salespeople can use an AI model that understands Butler Street methodologies and their own individual companies' differentiators and value props. So think of it as a personalized agent for your sales organization, and we license it out to customers. So we are excited about it. We're excited to see where the staffing industry goes, especially with AI, and realizing that there's a massive need for continual professional development amongst the industry. Because as the sales cycle changes, as the landscape of staffing continues to change, people are going to need to learn to do things differently. The most dangerous phrase in business is, hey, that's just the way we've always done it. It's never going to work in staffing in 2025.
And Joey, before I let you go, I got to run you through our rapid fire round if you got a second.
Yeah.
One book that has fundamentally changed your life.
Atomic Habits, James Clear. And so I reread that book every December to gear myself up for January and the new year. And everything about it, it's like, we're not trying to, because the way I used to operate and live, I was an all or nothing kind of guy. I was like, you know what, if I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week, and I would just burn out and it wouldn't work. And so the small little consistencies that James Clear talks about is something that I've started to live by, or try to at least. So that always reread it every year. I learn something new every year. And I recommend it to anyone I can.
And one piece of advice you would give to somebody just starting in the staffing and recruiting industry.
I would say if you're just starting in the staffing industry, say yes to any opportunity that's given to you, even if you're not sure about it. Maybe it's not the path that you thought you were going to go down, but if an opportunity comes your way and it's a yes or no, I would say trust your gut and say yes.
Joey Frampus, principal at Butler Street. Joey, can't thank you enough for coming on this episode to take the stage with me and sharing your insights with us.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad, and good luck in the marathon.
I appreciate you, buddy.